How does a kid running from Boston mobsters end up becoming one of the most powerful men in combat sports? Dana White's story isn't just about the rise of the UFC. It's a tale of hustle, risk, controversy, and an empire built on fights inside and outside the cage. His journey is filled with twists you'd never expect, from fleeing gangsters to running billion-dollar deals, all while being one of the most polarizing figures in modern sport. Dana Frederick White Jr. was born in Manchester, Connecticut in 1969, but his childhood was anything but stable. His father was rarely around, leaving his mother June to raise Dana and his sister mostly on her own. By his own account, Dana was restless, rebellious, and obsessed with fighting from an early age. One of his earliest memories was watching Muhammad Ali fight on television at his grandmother's house. The electricity of the crowd, the energy in the room, it hit him like lightning. From that moment on, he knew he wasn't going to live an ordinary life. But Dana wasn't exactly a model student. After bouncing between schools, he was eventually expelled from his private Catholic high school in Las Vegas. He barely graduated after finishing his senior year in Maine, and like many young guys without a clear plan, he worked a series of odd jobs, asphalt paving, bellhop, whatever paid the bills. It wasn't until he linked up with Boston boxing coach Peter Welch that Dana found direction. Welch gave him his first real shot in the boxing world. Dana trained hard, but he quickly realized his talents weren't going to make him a champion fighter. Instead, he was fascinated with the business side of combat sports. The deals, the events, the opportunities. He knew he had the ambition, but what came next nearly cost him everything. In the early 1990s, Dana was hustling in Boston, running boxing classes and making a modest living. But trouble soon came knocking. Mobsters connected to Whitey Bulger's infamous crew demanded $2,500 from Dana, basically extortion money. Instead of paying up, Dana made a decision that could have ended his life. He refused. Knowing the danger of crossing those guys, he packed up everything he had and fled back to Las Vegas. That move changed the course of his life. In Vegas, Dana threw himself into the fight game. He opened a gym, arranged boxing matches, and even tried his hand at launching an athletic clothing line. But then he discovered something that looked like pure chaos to most people: the early days of mixed martial arts. At the time, MMA was underground, bloody, and dismissed by critics as human cockfighting. To Dana, though, it looked like the future. By the late 90s, Dana was managing MMA fighters, which inevitably put him at odds with the UFC. The company was a mess, financially broke, banned in multiple states, and on the verge of collapsing. Where others saw a sinking ship, Dana saw a gold mine waiting to be polished. "I knew this could be huge," Dana later recalled. "I just kept thinking, imagine if they did this, imagine if they did that." So when he learned the UFC was close to shutting down, he reached out to two old high school friends who just happened to be casino billionaires, Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta. Together, they formed Zuffa LLC and bought the UFC in 2001 for just $2 million. Dana wasn't just part of the deal, he became the president, the face of the brand, and the loud, unapologetic voice of MMA. And he was about to prove that his instincts were right. At the time, the UFC was a blood-soaked curiosity that mainstream America wanted nothing to do with. Politicians like John McCain were calling it human cockfighting, and pay-per-view companies were dropping it left and right. Dana's job was clear: make MMA legitimate without losing its edge. Under his leadership, the UFC implemented new rules, weight classes, and regulations. Slowly, state by state, MMA gained legal recognition. Then came the breakthrough. In 2005, The Ultimate Fighter reality show aired on Spike Television. The series showcased up-and-coming fighters living in one house, training, fighting, and clashing with each other. By the time Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar went toe-to-toe in the finale, MMA had its moment. That fight is still considered one of the greatest in UFC history, and it catapulted the sport into the mainstream. From there, the growth was unstoppable. Pay-per-view sales skyrocketed. Stars like Georges St. Pierre, Ronda Rousey, and Conor McGregor turned into household names, and Dana White became a billionaire power broker in sports. In 2016, the UFC was sold to WME-IMG for a jaw-dropping $4 billion. Dana's personal payout? Over $300 million. Yet despite the massive sale, Dana stayed in charge. The UFC wasn't just his business, it was his identity. But while Dana was building the empire, shadows were growing behind the scenes. Fighter pay became the #1 criticism of Dana White's UFC. Fighters accused the company of exploiting them, while Dana pocketed millions. By 2010, multiple antitrust lawsuits had been filed, claiming the UFC unfairly controlled the market. Dana brushed off the criticism in his usual brash style, often cursing out reporters who questioned him. Still, in 2024, UFC agreed to settle one lawsuit for a staggering $375 million. There were other flashpoints too. Dana defended fighters who made offensive remarks, supported controversial figures, and was accused of brushing off serious allegations against UFC athletes. Then came COVID-19. While the world shut down, Dana mocked the pandemic, insisting UFC would carry on. In May 2020, UFC became the first major sport to return to live events, which sparked both outrage and admiration. Some saw him as reckless, others saw him as bold, but either way, Dana White refused to back down. And just when fans thought Dana couldn't get more polarizing, his personal life exploded into public scandal. Dana quickly issued an apology, but insisted he wouldn't step down or accept formal punishment. His reasoning? The shame of the incident was punishment enough. "I have to walk around for however long I live being labeled this way," he said. The backlash was massive, yet only months later, Dana launched one of his most controversial ventures ever, Power Slap. A league built around two people taking turns slapping each other in the face until one can't continue. Critics called it barbaric, exploitative, and dangerous. Dana called it entertainment, and despite the outrage, it aired on national television. Dana's influence extends far beyond the octagon. His relationship with Donald Trump goes back to 2001, when Trump hosted a UFC event at his Atlantic City casino. Dana has often credited Trump for giving UFC legitimacy when no one else would. That loyalty carried forward. Dana became one of Trump's most vocal celebrity supporters, speaking at rallies and defending him in the media. By 2024, the New York Times even called MMA the semi-official sport of the MAGA movement. In January 2025, just before Trump's second inauguration, Dana joined the board of Meta, one of the most powerful tech companies in the world. From fight promoter to corporate power player, his reach had grown far beyond sports. Dana White's life reads like a fight card full of chaos. Childhood struggles, mob threats, billion-dollar triumphs, lawsuits, scandals, and political power. He turned the UFC into a global empire, but in the process, became one of the most divisive figures in sports. The question now is simple. Is Dana White the visionary who saved MMA from extinction, or the ruthless mogul who put profit above everything else? Maybe he's both. Either way, one thing's for sure, Dana White has never played by the rules, and that's exactly why his story isn't finished yet.